Uh, we will be using 4 neurological codes or languages to communicate with our souls. The first code is called spatial. That's when we employ psychogeography, which you might be familiar with if you've ever done work in family constellations and familiar with Bert Hellinger work. That, in 2 words, means that we create inside of our minds a special system of all our social interactions, people, objects, and they're not somewhere out there, but around us in the form of their projections, something like a social panorama. And sometimes it's even enough to change your relationship with a person who is not even present physically, simply by working with his or her projections. You can't change the other person, but you can change your own attitude to them. And often it produces amazing results. Often a person starts behaving differently, or if they cannot uphold such an image, they can simply disappear from your life. Or let's say you can perhaps change its the size of the projection or place, make it smaller, and become less authoritarian or aggressive. You can change their position in relation to us, perhaps move them from a place where we keep everyone to whom we are completely and indefinitely indifferent. Tonight, we will use spatial relations as we move on our lifeline, be it on paper or on the floor, and by changing locations of different projections and resources. The next language is symbolic, and that's one that everybody is familiar with. Working with symbols coming up from our own subconscious. It's interesting that symbols are great tools for working with our psyche and carry a lot of meaning and energy. And about 80% of Earth population symbols mean similar things, such as tree, sun, crystal, will probably mean quite similar things to all of us. The next language, and tonight we will be finding symbols behind events in our life and also giving symbols to any resources we will be using. The next language is psychosemantic, and it's a code of meaning, where we will be answering questions, what things mean to us, those symbols, colors, or experiences, what they mean to us and what kind of conclusions we make out of events. For example, a divorce can mean disaster to one person and freedom to another. An illness can mean, again, a catastrophe, or it can mean the beginning of taking care of yourself, right? And the last code or language is a neurological code, the parameters of any object we describe, such as shape, color, size, texture, movement. This is how we will be describing any object that we will be envisioning. This is what takes a simple visualization to a completely new level, and using 4 of these languages is what going to translate our experience to our soul as a reality. Because really in your brain, in your subconsciousness, it only understands as real, it doesn't know what real is. Well, we're going to tell it. For example, imagine that you began to develop some incomprehensible concern about the surrounding reality, so-called anxiety. Do you want it to torment you at least a little bit less? Then determine exactly where you feel this anxiety and represent it by size, shape, color, consistency, neurological code. Supposedly, it turned out that your anxiety at this level is encoded in your chest in the form of a black spiky ball the size of children's ball, but made of dense rubber. Well, you definitely have problems because the chest is an area for emotional problems. Black is the color of negativism and fear. The size says that it's already quite serious because there is a little unaffected space left in your chest. And the density, well, that is not so easy to remove. For example, if it was gas, it could simply be released by making an imaginary hole, but dense rubber, it's something pretty concrete. But let's try to do something. First, repaint it all in a different color. For example, if you want peace, then blue, but not too dark, like a baby blue or sky blue. Secondly, ask to remove the thorns or carefully trim them, although after repainting they may have removed themselves. Third, experiment with the size. Maybe the ball can be made smaller, and the shape, maybe it can be flattened. And fourthly, with the consistency. Can this rubber be transformed into something less dense? I'm not claiming that you will succeed in all this, and especially from the first try. However, I guarantee a relief. If you want more, then determine where in this physical plane of the space surrounding you is the owner of your ball, its master spirit. In fact, this is his visual projection. Recreate his image according to the scheme known to you. The place was determined. Now it's up to the size, shape, color, and consistency. And convert it to symbol by going from what does it look like to who are you really? And then the main thing will come. Namely, that now you can finally deal with this independent part of your consciousness. To start, accept that you're working with a part of yourself. Perhaps a hurtful or hurting part at this point, but still relative. Tell her that you will no longer reject it. Bow down to this part, its image, in recognition and reconciliation. Not just lightly, but from the heart. And looking up, make sure that something completely different is already in front of you, much more useful and pleasant, which now you can and should already take into yourself back. And again, want even more, then without rushing to return, talk to this part. As we often talk with friends and other people in our imagination, conducting very productive dialogue with them. Ask, what does she want? And if what you hear is not very pleasant, ask the following question. Why does she part need it? Haven't learned the true reason, which most often expresses some kind of lesson you did not learn, an incomprehensible situation or an acceptable aspect of being. Agree with the fact that it needs to be completed and finished. And ask this part of yourself how. What needs to be done for this, you and her, and what to bring in you, in her, in your relationship. And when you know, do it and add it. At first in imagination, turn this defeat into victory, and then still virtually, but for example, using light and color that represent your desired state. For example, blue for calmness, blue serenity, green self-confidence, yellow optimism, orange love of life, red for will and power, and gentle lilac for idealism. Having finished and admiring the transformation, do not forget to bring all this into yourself, into your body. And well, this is all about codes and methods, but only for now. This principle is great for working in a ceremony, in some kind of healing process, in a place where you are already in altered or trance-like state.